Well, hello, welcome to the new video. And this time we have here the facelift of the fourth generation Kia Sorento. Let's have a closer look at the car. Because in terms of design, the car has been redesigned in such a way that it's closer in terms of design to the Kia EV9 and also slightly aerodynamically improved. Although it is not the best car in terms of aerodynamics in its class, and that can be seen by the very small air curtain here on the side. For example, the car like Skoda Kodiaq or Volkswagen Tyrone, they have a much bigger air curtain on the side, making it more aerodynamic. Also, we are lacking on active flaps in front of the radiator, which is also as a cooling element, but also a aerodynamic element on the front of the car. So that would be about it. Now let's go around the side of the car, and we have here the biggest wheels. These are 20-inch wheels with a tire of 225 45 R20. And well, it's up to you, but these are nice looking wheels. And in terms of the suspension, of course, this is the McPherson strut in the front, and we are running quite a decent amount actually of positive caster geometry at the front, which makes the car lean onto the outside rear wheel. Coming along the car, 2.81 meter wheelbase, and let's sit in the rear when we're here. And the practicality in the rear is fantastic, and I would say actually it's better than most of its competitors, because this car feels more like an American family SUV. So we have a cup holder integrated in the door card. We have heated seats, storage area here, dedicated space for the bottle or the can, and we have the Bose stereo in the car. And in terms of space, this is really great. So I have really big amount of space for my knees, really comfy also for the feet, and you can recline the sitting position to be really comfortable here in the car. And you have big panorama, sunroof, and in terms of comfort, well, you have air conditioning, 12 volt socket there. You can adjust the front seat of the passenger in here, and you also have two USB-C connectors on the side of the rear part of the front seats, and also your armrest with cup holders. So I think really nice and practical in this regard. And also look how easy it is to step in and out, and also to put in the child seat. So I think really practical in this regard. And now here's the redesigned rear. So we have a new signature to the light. We have this spoiler, the side spoiler, for improved aerodynamics, and also the rear spoiler to take it further. And now that we're here, in terms of the geometry of the wheels, we are running more negative camber at the rear with a slight toe in, it seems, but from some angles actually looks like toe out, but really it is toe in. Yeah. And now let's have a look inside the boot. And this is a 7-seat configuration of the car. So you can see here 6th and 7th seat here. What's good about this is that you still have air conditioning for this third row of passengers. Both of them, they have USB-C connector for charging, cup holders, and here on the right side is where they adjust the air conditioning. And if you have all of the 7 seats up, you still get 180 liters of boot capacity, or 179. And under the floor you have a storage area, which is actually quite decent. So yeah, I think really practical. And now the last thing, let's have a look at the engine. So let's have a look at the engine. So this is a diesel. Of course, you can get a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, which is a good thing in terms of options. But this is a turbo diesel. So we have a 2.2 liter CRDi diesel mated to the DCT transmission and 4-wheel drive, of course. So as the only competitor, for example, nowadays is the VW cars, VW group. And so this is the 2.2 liter diesel producing 194 horsepower, 440 newton meters of torque. So it is slightly more power, well, 1 horsepower more and 40 newton meters more than the VW group diesel. And it's mated to the 8-speed automatic transmission, a dual clutch, as compared to the 7-speed in the VW group. And well, it's quite busy here in the engine bay, a lot of cables and stuff. But I guess that's for Kia mechanics to cope with. We have a big battery. What is it? It's 80 ampere hour battery, and the engine is mated, well, not quite in front, not really that much in front of the front axle, right? So I think it's quite decent, and well, that would be about it. Now let's sit in the car, let's take it further down the road, and let's talk about the experience with the Kia Sorento in everyday life. Oh, well, hello, welcome inside the facelifted Kia Sorento. And as you can see, look at this. Every time you step in and out, the car automatically moves away the seat, moves away the steering wheel, and then moves it back in. So this is a very nice and luxurious feature that not all of its competitors have. Well, let me start up the car. So let me start up the 2.2 liter CRDi diesel mated with 8-speed automatic transmission and 4-wheel drive. And let me talk you through the facelifted interior. So what I like about the interior is the simplicity of it, and the design, and also the way or the materials used. Although we do have cheaper plastic here on the dashboard, but then again we have leather here on the door handle, leather here on the door cards, leather here on the armrest in the door handle, leather here on the armrest, on the central armrest. Very nice and comfy leather seats, which are heated, ventilated, and the driver also has a massage seat, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna turn it on. So you have pelvic, which is the lower part of the seat, underneath your butt. You have the lumbar. I'm gonna put the lumbar, or you can get the whole body massage as well. Also, an interesting feature on these front seats is that you have electronically adjustable support for your thighs, which is so long that it goes all the way to the end of your knees. So that's actually pretty interesting, and it's not this manual one like you get in the BMW, but it's the electronic one. It's really long and comfy and soft, so that's pretty nice. And then of course this car is a family car, and it's fantastically practical. So even though you do not have the biggest door bins like you get, for example, in a Skoda, you can still put a 1 liter bottle inside there. You have a massive and deep cave here for wireless charging. For wireless charging, you also get the 2 USB-C connectors there for charging. And alongside this cave, you have the buttons for heated and ventilated seats, which is pretty nice. You can also close this cave if you want to. Then you have this nice rotating knob, it is made out of plastic, but the design of it looks pretty luxurious, I have to say. Underneath that you have the Sorento lettering, and then you have the drive mode selector, which is very interesting because if you press it, you have the drive, and there you can choose from the normal, eco, sport, and smart. And if you press it, what is there then is the terrain, and this is like the terrain mode, so you can choose in between the snow, mud, and sand. So this car is a really nice all-rounder. I'm driving all the time in sport because I want to have all of the power available. Then you have another buttons beneath it. So you have the heated steering wheel there, auto hold, hill descent control, electronic parking brake, start and stop, parking sensors, and parking camera, which is of really nice quality. I have to say, you have a 360-degree camera. Let's have a look at this. So now we're on a mountain pass, and we can have a look around the car. So I think, yeah, pretty cool. Then you have 2 cup holders, really big cup holders in the middle, and very spacious, incredibly spacious armrest, but there is no connectivity inside or air conditioning. Yeah, ahead of me, nice, not so thick steering wheel with the paddles. Also typical layout of the buttons for the Kia, and on the left side from the steering wheel I have the buttons to open the boot and turn off the traction and stability system is limited. And then what I also like is that we have massage seats. Well, anyway, I think that would be about it, and let's drive the Kia. So there is plenty of these MPVs on stilts, let's call them, because these are not really an SUVs. They are supposed to be like a driver's SUVs. These are really family cars, in a sense. And so recently I had the Skoda Kodiaq, the new Skoda Kodiaq, by which I was really blown away because of it was incredibly aerodynamic, and therefore it was much more efficient than before. And this is the first thing I'm gonna stop by, because there is efficiency of this car and it's not the greatest, and that is particularly because of the aerodynamics. This car is not as aerodynamically streamlined as the Skoda Kodiaq. It has a drag coefficient of 0.32, and when the Skoda Kodiaq has only 0.28, which is probably the class leading. And therefore the consumption of this car, even though it's around 20 kilos lighter than the Skoda Kodiaq, it's a 1929 kilos, so 1929 kilos, it's still much greater. So what I'm looking at, or what you're looking at in the winter, is the average of 8.2 liters of diesel per 100 kilometers. Now actually I was on the way, I was driving B roads and villages combined, and I had the lowest measured consumption of only 6.6 liter of diesel per 100 kilometers. So this is the sort of efficiency that you can expect from your new Sorento if you're buying it. I don't really know the size of the tank, but I think it's over 64 liters, somewhere around that. So it's still giving you a very decent amount of range. Just that you know that it's gonna have a bigger fuel economy than the Skoda Kodiaq as its diesel competitor. But other than that, I have to say I'm very pleasantly surprised by this car, because I wasn't expecting, considering the conception of the car, which is of course preferring the family and the space, so that me as a driver, I'm sitting somewhere slightly in front of the middle of the wheelbase and quite high. I didn't expect this car with this conception to technically behave so nicely in the corners, and that is of course done by the very good engineering of the chassis. So the Kia engineers, what they've done is they've given the car quite a really good amount of caster, which makes the car lean onto the outside rear wheel in a corner like this. And then additionally, and very rightly, they've given it more negative camber at the rear, as well as tow out, to cope up with the big weight, with the heavy weight of the car, 1920 kilos. And I have to say, it's really quite nice in the corners. It's really visibly leaning onto the outer wheel, so you can feel it. You can really feel it that you're leaning this direction. So that's pretty nice. It's a really nice and correct behavior. The steering is nice. It's slower than in the Skoda, but it's still decently precise, I have to say. It has a decent amount of response, of feedback through it. But what you do feel is that you really do feel the heft of the car in your hands. You really do feel it when I go into the corner slightly fast. I really do feel the weight in the corners, whereas for example again with the Skoda Kodiaq with the DCC Plus chassis, it felt actually lighter than the car really was. So that is a little bit of a comparison which we have to do still, right? So yeah, so again, if we have to sum up the driving characteristic, really nice and correct, surprised me considering the conception. It's a really nice and stable car to drive. Also in terms of comfort, it's very nice. It doesn't float, it's not bouncing even when you have followed undulations on the road. It's a really nice and controlled body. You do have only this landing. When there is some crease on the road, it just lands and that's it. So yeah, very 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 well resolved damping as well. In terms of dynamics, we have the engine which similarly to the Skoda, although it is 200 cc and more, it is 2.2 compared to 2.0. It has 193 horsepower, and I think this engine, well, just as was in the Skoda, I think it's really sufficient, even for overtaking. It's working quite well with the 8-speed DCT transmission. The DCT transmission allows it to rev only 2000 RPM at 130 kilometers on the motorway, which is really nice and comfy. I measured the car at only 59 decibels at 130 kilometers, 59 to 61 decibels at 130 kilometers. Yeah, pretty good, really good. And well, I guess that would be about it to all of the important aspects of the car. And now let's come to the likes and dislikes. Well, I think in between the likes there have to be a design. The newer design, of course, it's much fresher. It makes the car look much more like the electric brother, the Kia EV9. And although it is not the most aerodynamic, just like you get in the Skoda, I mean, it's a nice looking car. So that's good. And then another like, driving characteristic. So I really do like how it drives through the corners, considering the conception, and even more considering the one thing I didn't mention, the sitting position. So the sitting position is really, I'm sitting here like a mother that's driving her children around, because yeah, I'm sitting really high above the dashboard. And but then the steering wheel, you can put it really low down, so it's really rather strange in this regard, because you can put the steering wheel so much low in such a low position, and you're sitting so high in your lowest position. So this would be maybe a dislike that I have about the car, is this seating position of the car. But then how it handles in the corner, I think it's really nice. Considering that we don't have the adaptive chassis, or at least I think, because even when I switched the modes around, the chassis didn't feel very much different on the road. So I suppose we don't have adaptive damping. It handles really nice. It does also handle the agility, changing the weight distribution in the corners very quickly. So I think they've done a really nice mechanical job in setting up the suspension. Really nice in this regard. So that's actually quite nice. I like also the light-leggedness of the engine. And then what you also have to like is that in this family aspect, for being incredibly practical and comfortable for the family, I think this car, feeling a little bit American, surpasses its European competitors, also the Skoda Kodiaq, because particularly in the rear, you have such a good comfort. You have 4 cup holders there. You can recline the seating position there. It's really nice. And also here in the front, it just feels so practical, this car, and also in the boot. So I think in the family aspect, in the family regard, this car surpasses the Skoda Kodiaq. But in other regards, particularly the efficiency with the aerodynamics, the Skoda Kodiaq is very much ahead of this car, with incredible consumptions both on the motorway and on the B roads and combined. So this is where this car lacks, of course, right? But look at this, now I'm going down the hill, and so far 4.5 liters per 100 kilometers as I'm talking to you. So that's actually not so bad now at the moment. Well, what more can we say? So let's come to the dislike. So as I've said, the dislike is the efficiency, the sitting position. Well, and then another small dislike is that even despite the interior is looking really quite luxurious and like it has price, some materials, particularly the plastic itself, for a touch they feel incredibly cheap, and they feel sort of in a way that they're not going to last incredibly long, maybe 300,000-400,000 kilometers, right? So this is maybe a small thing. I think, yeah, it feels slightly cheap, but it looks really nice, I have to say. So yeah, I guess that's about it about the Kia Sorento facelift. It's a car I really like because it's incredibly practical. If you're looking for a family car, it's gonna be really great. But if you're looking for efficiency, you might want to look elsewhere, because the efficiency is just about average with this car. But other than that, really nice car, nice to drive, nice engine, enough power, enough grunt. So yeah, that would be about it to the Kia Sorento 2025. And well, if you found the video useful and liked it, well, keep watching, keep subscribing, because more videos are coming on very soon, and I hope to see you in the very next video. In the meantime, take care of you and goodbye.